is Thursday, January 9th, 2025. And this is a meeting of the Senior Center Site Selection and Building Committee. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220 extension 100 prior to the meeting. So welcome, everyone. I call us to order at 6:06 p.m. All right. And okay. So I think everyone has in front of them the amended agenda. And that is the agenda that's been posted. So are there any additional changes or amendments? Otherwise, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
All right, and Dan is remote, so I'll do roll call. So Dennis?
Aye.
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 And Chair says aye. Dan?
Aye.
Okay, I think I might have to name all of your names as we go around, but all of you members said yes. Okay.
Why is that so low?
Um,
Dan, could you speak again?
Aye. Yeah.
oh, so that's only coming off of my computer speaker. Hang on. It
Well,
says
you
it's the meeting.
certainly don't want to hear from me, so I'll.
Uh,
Yeah, sometimes it's good.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so try that again. Can someone say something?
Yeah, testing.
Oh, now you are loud and clear. Let's turn the volume down. Thank you. Oh, no, what did I just do? Sorry. Okay. All right, wonderful. Okay, so do we have any minutes to approve?
Do not.
Do not, okay. So let me know if there's anything I can do to help you, because I'm a little bit worried that, you know, we're gonna get in trouble for, I mean, I know the recordings are on APAC, but I don't want to get into the distraction of an open meeting law violation, because we just need to get those
How
posted.
many are we behind?
3, I think, 4 maybe.
It looks like a lot more on the website though, because we had public forums. And so I will check with the town clerk and see if we should post something that says a meeting was held and this many people attended, just to have something to put in that minutes column, because otherwise it starts to look like we don't have anything there, even if that's not fully accurate. So, all right. All right. Wonderful. All right. So I think that brings us on to an update on the owner's project manager RFQ. Dan, do you want to say, you want to give an update on that?
Yeah, sure. So we got the RFQ out. It's planned to be opened on January 24th. I did send it to several firms as well via email just to make them aware. And I think we have that several have taken out the list. So it's up on our website, and I track the list of who takes it out in case we have to send out an addendum. And there's been 35 people who've taken it out, but you know, half of that is you know, random people or bid houses. But yeah, the word's out, and it's a lot of people have it. I haven't had any questions yet. Katie, you did point out one miscue I had in there, so I'll update that by addenda on the size of the existing facility. Um, but yeah, so it's due on Friday the 24th, and after that I'll get any responses out to the group so we can all start reviewing it.
I will just say that I've gotten several calls from OPMs saying they're interested and wanted a little inside information, which I did not give them. But and I also signed up as one of the random people to make sure that you knew I was aware of the RFQ. What time on Friday are they due?
I think it's 2 p.m.
Yeah, that's a pretty good time because some people who send them by FedEx or something, they'll get them there on time. Any earlier, some towns do it at 10 and it just, you
Yeah,
got to be a day ahead. So
yeah,
good.
that's what I
That's good,
usually do
good,
too.
good planning.
So yeah, I think January 17th is the last date for questions from any consultants or potential OPM. So I'll follow up to any then and reach out to you, Katie, if anything comes our way.
Great. Dan, for doing that.
And could you walk us through just kind of briefly what the process will be for how the selection is made? I know that we have to interview some number and that it's not necessarily contingent on cost.
Right. So the way it's set up is in the RFQ itself, there's a criteria. And so basically we're going to take each response we receive and then we rate certain criteria as highly advantageous, advantageous, not advantageous, and I forget what the lowest mark is. And so we score it very similar to when we procured John and the architect. And so based on that, we'll set up a scoring and then we can kind of come together. And we don't, can you
You don't
still
have-
hear me? I gotta,
Oh, yeah.
okay. I have a warning on my screen, but we don't have to interview. It's optional.
Yeah.
So, and so in this case, we can decide that after we've looked through them. Do we want to bring anyone in for an interview? Are we comfortable with what we have? But basically, it'll be we won't get any price proposals. We'll negotiate a price with the OPM we select.
So,
So,
go ahead.
so question, Dan, so you negotiate after the selection of the OPM?
Yeah, and that's
You can
kind
always
of
reject them, if you don't like the negotiation. I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
yeah, you're right. You can. So if the price negotiation isn't going well, we can go to the next best OPM in line. So it's spelled out that way in the RFQ, and that's typically how it is done when the OPMs are hired.
So their expectation is, I looked at the RFQ and it looked like it followed exactly whatever the state procedure was required for that type of work. So that was good. Thank you very much for that. But so if everyone's familiar with this, who OPMs in general are familiar with these steps is what I'm getting at. So they understand that even though they're selected to potentially be the number one, there's a negotiation beyond that that could drop them out. Is that the way it's understood typically in the business?
Yeah.
And their ability, whoever is chosen, one of the criteria would be their ability to start immediately or
Yeah,
closely.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's part of and we did put that in there for when they submit their OPM form. I forgot what it was called, but it says what's your workload now? It's basically we drill down to the ability for them to take on this project. And that'll be part of their submittal.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Great.
Can you just remind me of the fee kind of structure? I mean, I remember there was the whole project and then there was for this part that we're working on with the strategic plan or whatever.
What the anticipated is for the schematic,
Yeah,
which is where we're going to next.
yeah. What's the anticipated for the schematic?
I'd say 25% of the total, just guessing.
I know we got something from Vertex
Yeah, but
Katie, but I don't recall what that was offhand.
I'd have to go back and look. I'm not sure.
Okay, it doesn't matter, never mind.
Oh, that's a good question.
Curious.
John, would you estimate that it's about 25% of the projected cost?
You know, I hate to contradict Ken, you know, I want to be on his side, you know. But I would say that schematic is not the heavy lifting for the OPM is once you get through schematic, whittling down if it's over budget or having problems. Generally, construction documents is a really heavy lift for them, and then the construction itself. So I'd I'd lower the front loading and increase the later, especially with the clerk. We suggested in our early numbers between the clerk and the OPM about $425,000. That might be a little bit low depending upon the firm. They may have different ways of dealing with that. But I would say early on, you're mostly just getting to know each other. They won't have a whole lot to say until as maybe midway through schematics, they can give you some good advice. But I wouldn't throw too much money at the start. They really need it. It's really heavy lifting during construction, and dealing with the contractor and advising you as a committee, as a neutral, you know, as somebody who works. We work directly for you, but the OPM, the reason why the state did OPMs is a lot of smaller communities, not necessarily Ayer, bark up the wrong tree with the architect or with the contractor, and it gets really messy. The OPM is there to bring stability to the process and to make sure that what the architect is doing or what the contractor is doing is copacetic with the whole process. So if the architect is out of line, he or she can advise you. And if the architect is having a hard time with the contractor, they can advise you as to why there's a problem with the contractor. So the OPM plays a role that the state's discovered about maybe 15 years ago. A lot of towns got into big trouble with lawsuits and things, mismanaging either the architect or the contractor. And the OPM really brings some sanity to the whole process as your advisor. So when Ken gets out of line, the OPM can straighten him up. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say? Anyhow, that's kind of the role. You know, Ellen, he or she, one of the teams that are supplying, I worked with their project manager, who I think is terrific. I'm not a big fan of the principal, but they did a really good job. So once you get them all together and you review them and you make a decision amongst yourselves, make sure you talk to me about them too, because there's some really good firms out there and some that, you know, they shouldn't be in the business, but there you go.
Well, I was wrong because my estimate was probably too high early on, the 25%, to get right down to what I was wrong about. You're thinking more like 15% at this point.
Yeah, I think 10 to 15% because their real work comes much later, and it's heavy lifting.
That was helpful.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, anything else on the OPM? All right, so the next item is an
I do have a
update.
question.
Oh, yeah.
So, we will get these, the bids, on January 24th, or Dan will.
Mhm.
And then we will receive them, we will all receive them, is that the idea? And how soon will we be responding to them?
That's a good question.
I think as quickly as we want to review them, right?
I'm gonna ask Dan about that
Yeah.
sequence.
Is there
Should we just be there for the opening and whittle it right down the day of the opening? I don't know, I leave it up to Dan to tell us how to manage that.
so Dan, how long between the time the bids close or the responses close and we would have all the documentation and need to make a decision? Like, is it 2 weeks, a month? At 35.
I think I think it's built in. I'd have to look at the RFQ, but it's got to be 60
In the
days,
RFQ.
60 or 90. But, obviously we'll want to move quicker. So it's really the purview of the committee. How quickly can we review, without being too quick so that we oversee something and don't properly review. But once I get the documents Friday, I'll get hard copies and electronic copies, and I can start getting those distributed. So I'd say, Monday of the next week, the 27th. Yeah, 27th. We'll try to get them out to everybody. I definitely electronically we can make it happen. And then however we can get them in hard copies in people's hands.
Yeah. And, okay, no, we'll see what we get, but there's no guarantee that the 35 who took it out are gonna be responding, or do you anticipate?
I bet you we get between 5 and 10.
Yeah, I think if you get 10, it'll be amazing. I think you'll get more like 5.
Yeah.
So the process for reviewing them, is it going to be the whole committee or is it going to be a subset?
I guess whatever the committee wants to do.
I mean, last time we whittled it down to 3.
Yeah, the whole committee participated in all parts of
Okay,
that
that's,
process.
Yeah, didn't we get it to, do we have 5 or do we start with more? Got it to 5 and to 3, something like that.
And then we went down to 3.
6 to
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, it probably would make sense for everyone again. For this important of a decision.
We undoubtedly might have to have a meeting with, as a single agenda item, that work of
Right.
Yeah.
us sitting around doing that. Good.
Okay.
So can we set a date for that, like Thursday of that week? Or, that week, or how long do we want? I mean, if it's 5 or 10, I think, 2 or 3 days.
Mm.
With it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wednesday or Thursday of that week is probably a good time.
You wanna stick with Thursday, the 30th,
Yes, that's fine.
same time? 6.
Thursday, the 30th at 6? Or 5?
Either one's fine with me. Does anyone have a preference between 5 and 6? 6 has been working, right?
5:30. Yeah, that's good.
Maybe both, I don't know.
All right. Okay, so, Dan, this next update is yours as well. Can you give everyone an update on the conversation you had about the MIPA review? And then I think that will take us nicely into our timeline conversation.
Yeah, real briefly. So I reached out to the MIPA folks and I requested a meeting. I actually had one planned, but then they ended up emailing back to me. And so anyway, long story short, I explained the project, how we've already received some state funding through the Housing Choice Grant. Because basically for a MIPA permit, you need either a state permit or state funding to trigger MIPA. And so I asked him, here's what it says about an ACEC. Does this automatically kind of trigger us into the MIPA? And she did tell me it does. So MIPA review is required. We've done a MIPA permit before. Here at DPW, I did one several years ago for the Wright Road water main when we put that cross-country water main in. So it's something we can put together. It probably is like a 2-month process, and you don't really want to start it until you've finished up any other permits you have with the state, because all the various players in the state get alerted of all the projects that get put onto the MIPA, what's called the environmental monitor. And so our project would go on this monitor. It's basically a website where there's projects that triggered MIPA that get posted for 30 days, and anyone from the public can comment on them. But all the major players like Mass DOT, Mass DEP, DCR, Natural Heritage, everybody gets alerted to this. So we have to finish that permit with Natural Heritage before we would submit them into the for MIPA. So I think we put it in the timeline, right, Bonnie, to sort of show that. But basically, I think when you have our schematic design close to wrapped up and the Natural Heritage permit wrapped up, then we would put in our MIPA application and go through that process. So that's kind of in brief what needs to be done. So it just adds a layer of permitting to the project and to the timeline.
I think I'm missing Bonnie. I don't think the natural heritage permit is on the timeline here.
So
Might-
first species habitat assessment,
Yeah,
yeah, we don't have the permit on there, you're right.
Okay.
All right, I'll add that.
that's
But
it.
then, wouldn't it run somewhat simultaneously with some of the other, Dan?
Yes.
I think they run some, once you get those lined up, you got other things going on that, it isn't going to stop everything for
No.
60 days.
No.
Yeah,
No, yeah, kind of once we get, getting the natural heritage permit's the big part, because then we're done with natural heritage. So when they comment on the MIPA submittal, we're already all good. And so, yeah, we can just keep doing our work at that point. I don't think don't expect anything to come out of MIPA that would make us have to, basically, what would happen if there's some impact from your project, they'd make you do a further study, an environmental impact report. I've never had to do that, but it's just
So-
a layer of permitting we got to do.
So Dan, for the National Heritage permit, would you expect that to be done by February?
Yeah, what is the status of
Yeah.
that?
I
Finish
think-
by,
So we're meeting with them Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I think maybe I could speak to it better after that meeting,
okay,
try to get a better sense. But after that meeting we have with them and kind of go over the habitat assessment and what's going on out there, we'll have a better idea before we do submit the natural heritage permit of what to expect. And then
So
it'll be a longer
You meant to
process.
say, Dan, you meant to say after you meet with Natural Heritage before we submit the environmental notification form, whatever it is, the ENF, right?
Yeah,
So I'm just, for the entire, right at the top, under entire project, the MIPA submission and review, which we have here at the beginning,
We do have it.
at the beginning of
We got it right
March.
there.
we're, yeah.
You got it.
That would have to be moved forward into April or May in order to do the natural heritage first.
Natural Heritage is ongoing right now.
Ongoing.
yeah.
Right, but the MIPA can't begin until that's completed, is
Yeah,
that?
you just have to move it down, right?
Yeah, just move it down to where, the question is
Actually, it's
where to
broken.
move it, right?
It's not far from.
Maybe
So is
we just make slash marks or something. 'cause-
Right. Okay, so the MISA review that is on here is the same thing as the natural heritage permitting? Is that what you're saying?
Just read the line, go down the line further down, yeah. Tells you right
Yep.
there. And the HPS.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, wonderful. Okay,
I'm
perfect.
sorry, I
All right,
missed
thank you.
that.
The detail of it is on the third line after the time clock.
Yeah, it's good.
I
Okay.
see.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for clarifying that. All right, so though that can go concurrently, I guess, I'm curious to know, do we think that that's I mean, our timeline is already shifting as we're going along, but how do we know if, part of the reason we've wanted to do a lot of this site work, this due diligence, is so that the package that we take to town meeting is as complete as possible.
It'll all be done.
So, yeah, so I guess what I'm wondering is, so now that we know that we need to do the MIPA review and it's going into the summer, I think the committee then needs to acknowledge that we're not getting to February, we're probably not getting to April. We're looking into the fall. Because I think,
Or summer.
or summer.
Okay.
We don't,
The regular schedule is the fall.
What's that?
The regular fall town meeting is in the fall. You just become an article on that. Doesn't have to be they sometimes call it a special town meeting, but it's typically every fall there is a
Annual town
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
some,
You know,
fall annual, they call it the fall annual town, meeting,
But-
whatever it is.
for,
Mhm.
I mean, it has been it has been my feeling that as in order to give this project the fullest and fairest hearing, that a special town meeting would put us in the best possible position to do that.
Yeah.
Given what these timeline shifting seems to be indicating is we're not gonna get a special town meeting in March, let's say. It seems increasingly unlikely that we would be prepared to go near the end of April at the regular town meeting, which is scheduled then, just because there's too much work to do and the OPM may have some input into this that we're gonna need to take into account. So are we looking at potentially at a special town meeting and I'm just, sometime in, late May, early June? Is that, or?
You gotta be kidding me, right? I mean, John has told us it takes 4 months to do the schematics. So. I'm coming in tonight figuring it's a fall town meeting.
Well, but if
So-
you get into the fall
Well,
town meeting, get
we
it
could
carried.
possibly make August, but I wouldn't say June.
Well,
So August for a special town meeting.
could be.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's in. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe we just proceed until. I mean, my sense is that to the extent that we know where the endpoint is.
Right.
We will be in a better position, not only to drive the process, but also to kind of inform the public. And it's hard to inform the public that at some ill-defined time in the future, you will be asked to approve some ill-defined amount of money for some.
Right. Right, so,
Ill-defined project.
right, so I
It's a
think,
well-defined project.
Well,
it's a well-defined project. I think that's kind of bringing us into the next two items on our agenda, but,
Yeah.
I agree that we need to readjust our expectations for the timeline, so that we can bring the OPM on and then start the schematic design, right? That delay, as well as needing to at least have some expectations as far as the MIPA review, because Dan, is it fair to say that the MIPA review will likely result in some sort of accommodation during the building process, but is unlikely to create a red light, where they would say, you can't build on this site? Like, do you have any context for that?
From through the MIPA review, I wouldn't expect any restrictions to come out of that. But the
Okay.
natural heritage will have some, it won't say a red light, but there'll probably be a turtle protection plan or something along those lines that we have to abide by as we construct and then post-construction. But I guess we'll know a lot more on that Tuesday after we meet with them again.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think MIPA will put up any kind of a roadblock. It's more of a procedural
Yeah,
process that they want to go through to make sure all the little T's have been crossed and the I's. Agree with Dan.
All right.
How long does the review take? Is that like a 2-month or a 2-week process?
the MIPA,
Average.
MIPA's a 30-day review. It's posted for 30 days and there's a site visit as part of that. But we gotta get it into the monitor and you wait a couple weeks till it actually gets posted. So I say a 2-month process or so.
That's not gonna slow us down that much then.
The good news is we're doing all this now and not starting from the beginning. So
Mm.
this will all go concurrent with the rest of the schematics and everything else.
Great.
Timing wise, it'll all come out at the end.
Wonderful. All right.
I-
So we expect that by the time we go to town meeting, we won't have any open-ended environmental things. We will have the answers for what the situation is and what we're going to do to be sensitive to those issues, because that's something I wanted to make sure we had buttoned up so that so that it would not be open-ended.
Any of those questions that'll ask will be completely covered.
Okay.
And then Dan, just one last question. The Sandy Pond, that main, that was ACEC as well, right? That area.
I know it's definitely turtle habitat. I don't remember if it was ACEC.
I think it was both, if I remember correctly. And that,
Are you in an ACEC? We will,
yeah,
then it would be then.
yeah, it
It's the
is.
same line.
I'm pretty sure. And I don't remember that taking very long. Cause I was on the.
You want
commission.
conservation?
Yeah, I don't remember it taking very long at all. Or
No,
there was no issue. It was just a matter of procedure.
It's
Exactly.
interesting. The process is interesting because it involves municipalities and state agencies to get some kind of funding. It's like a setup as a protective barrier, I guess, to oversee the. It's not something necessarily happens within the private sector that much, but it does happen with us as soon as we get a grant and we're in an ACEC.
yeah, it's really, a state agency, any project taken on by a state agency, or if there's a state permit, or if there's a grant from the state, is really what triggers it.
Yeah.
It's just it's gonna be a formality for me. I have to take a little time under this cover of NEPA review for something related. So, David Ross Associates has finished the drawing,
Oh, yes.
the preliminary drawing that they want to call for the lot. It's so very simple because it's just basically the topography and the shape of the lot. And then, they add on the particulars of the abutting land and things like that. So the idea would be that they are ready to meet us in the field. If anyone wants to walk the lot, I'd like to tentatively set it up for next Wednesday if possible. If would like to do it next Wednesday, if that works out for people.
What time?
Well, I can go back to them and tell them the time, so that's why I'm bringing it up here.
Yeah, I have rehearsal starting at 2:30. I can't do anything after 2.
So, I mean, I would just shoot for like 10 o'clock in the morning.
I'd love to do it, but I have a 10:20 doctor appointment that'll go, so.
It's not terribly important for everybody to be there. If you have a couple of representatives.
I'm just interested in the folks that haven't seen the site on the ground to do it.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of the meeting.
I'll be free after 11.
Well, we want to do it another day? Anybody, what's another day? We can do it any day.
Thursdays.
Want to do
Thursday,
it Thursday?
Well, Thursday afternoon, I'm tied up.
Thursday at 10.
Thursday morning,
I'm
10.
tied up for Thursday.
All
I could
day?
do Wednesday, no, Thursday morning at 10. I mean, I could do it anytime in the afternoon on Thursday.
Oh, okay. Anybody else on Thursday afternoon? Might be warmer anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
That would be great. I'm the only person here in the afternoon, so could we do it around 3 o'clock? Is that too late?
The engineers wrap up like earlier than that. 'Cause they-
Oh,
Getting
okay.
dark too.
Well, I've been out there.
Oh, okay, so
I mean-
you can skip.
If everyone else can do it, I haven't gone inside, but
That
I've
was the
been
point,
out there.
going inside,
Yeah.
seeing it from the inside.
Okay.
rather than through the fence, but
Well, why don't you guys
Thursday
go out
morning-
there, if Thursday
Well,
works for
Tuesday.
everybody else?
I don't think that- it's up to everyone else. I'm available. So I
Okay.
think I have a meeting on Tuesday.
How about Friday?
Ken, if
the
the-
17th?
Okay. Friday?
Thursday's better for me. Friday, tied up.
You tied up Friday?
In the afternoon, or I could do it.
10 a.m. Friday.
10 a.m. Friday.
Okay.
How's that look, for folks? Good?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll notify David Ross, to meet us out there. And we'll get an on-site view. And,
Does that have to be posted?
it'll have to be posted
Yes.
because of the amount of people involved, you're right.
That's okay, not a problem.
So
So-
Friday's. been
10
posted.
a.m. the Friday, the 17th.
Yes,
Okay, just make sure, I think everyone just check in at the office before you, maybe all meet by the DPW office and then head down.
I was
Check
gonna.
in.
Okay.
Or
I was gonna-
the alternative is I can have the gate unlocked.
I was gonna call Matt and just let him know, unlock the gate for us, or someone unlock the gate for us.
Yeah, I'll do that. Let's do that. I'll have the gate unlocked before then 10 AM.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that's good. So what'll happen is when we go out there, it'll be an on the ground look at the shape of the site. They should have markings for us to figure it out. Then if there's anything that comes right out and we don't like it, we can adjust the lines typically, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And then they'll turn it into the real plan that gets signed by the planning board. And then the lot will be broken away. It's still be the same ownership, nothing changes. It's just that it's a lot that's available.
But at this point, what the work that Ross, like the precise orientation of the building and the angle that it has with relation to the street, that is not determined here. It's just.
He doesn't do any of that.
Right. But what he did was.
Just a
put
plot plan.
I see.
Plot plan with the topography that John asked for. So it's got the topography on it. That's been checked in the field.
All right.
And then some benchmarks on there too, that they use in the future. Benchmarks just are indicating how high something is and the elevations, which is used by the engineers to develop.
Yeah, and the contractor, when he goes to lay out the site, needs those benchmarks, so he needs to triangulate. Yeah.
So there really is nothing special on the plan. He shows those locations of the soil piles. Shows the grading, the frontage. A lot is basically 3 acres, it's 3.02 acres. We had those conversations before. Some people were concerned that John originally said 1.5 to 2. Then we had folks on the committee that were concerned that we don't get pinched, so we brought it up to 3. So it's basically 361 feet down the street and 361 feet deep. It's just a box. Good. That gives us room to work.
Good size. That's actually a better size than whatever John might have suggested.
Thank you. I got one right. Okay, so that's that. So it's Friday,
Wonderful.
Friday at 10, well, on the ground.
And I'm not sure I have that on the website, so I will get that up.
This is drawing on the website, you mean?
Yeah, that's something I don't.
No, this doesn't go right now. Till we all agree that we're satisfied. If we could tweak it.
This is the draft.
This is a draft.
I know, but I think any document that
Oh,
they're
any
all
document.
looking at
Okay.
has to go up there,
So-
so I can label it as a draft.
Did he send you copies? Oh.
Yeah.
He did,
Yes,
just in the last couple of days. Okay, so you've got the,
I think so. I'll double check.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we got the CAD file.
You have that too? I'm not
Yeah, we'll
sure.
get it. Yeah,
I got that.
No, you haven't, but I just wanted to double check it in the field first before we
Yeah,
sent the
I'll
CAD,
need that, yeah.
CAD file over to you. That was all.
Okay,
And he reluctantly said the same thing. He wanted to make sure the community had a chance to do this, the engineer.
okay,
And then, once we agree, they'll turn it into a plan with a stamp. And it'll go to the planning board, get
Okay.
signed. So that's a no-brainer now. That's pretty much done.
great.
Again, on the MEPA review, there were just, all the other documents are current. There's no other changes except a meeting coming up with Natural Heritage.
Right.
For Dan Finch Gale Group. I
Mhm.
guess. Yeah. All right.
All right. Any other site related items?
I have one more, and I hope I don't get punched for this, but I've started reaching out to contractors about their input on some of the particulars of the project. And we happen to have a great contractor in town, Cataldo Excavating, who was the firm that did the high school field. He's located right on, Westford Road, and I've known him for a long time. So he's agreed to let me go into his office next week with his estimator and just give them the concept stuff we had, maybe get some lineal footage idea of budgeting. Maybe different than what John has given us, maybe the same. But it gets us engaged in the community. He's also a taxpayer. He's interested in the project. He knows a lot of people. So just showing him the stuff where we're at, he's interested in helping, no cost. And we might come up with some numbers that will help us in the future, some linear footage costs, and how much does it cost to build a parking space, for instance? They may just have it, by paving and things like that. And let them look at the site to concur with us, which we already know. This is a great site to work on. whatever, maybe come up with some ideas. So I'm gonna do that next week and I hope I don't get fired for doing it.
Now, this doesn't represent any kind of commitment to them
There's
to
no
actually
commitment.
do the
We can't make
project.
a commitment, it's against the law.
You can't.
What
Yeah,
we can-
and when it comes out to public bid, he has to bid it just like everybody else to the specifications.
We know that. We're not trying to, correct. But what we can find out potentially is that maybe a little hint on what the market is like now. He may tell us, the market is strong, the market is weak, so just information, general information that may help us in the future. That's all I'm saying.
Good.
Great.
That was all under me for review.
Yes, it was.
Sorry.
All right. So, next, thank you, Ellen, for putting together this summary. I think everyone has of the public outreach we have done to date. This will come in very handy, as we're trying to tell the public and then the, higher boards in town about, the efforts we've been making to get the word out. So, you sent that one out and then I sent a revised copy and everyone has the revised copy with the, there were a couple of holes in the number of attendees. Carolyn, you were at the two concerts
Right,
and you said it was not a ton, I mean, you got to get up and speak in between the sets, which I think is huge.
yeah, in the high school.
In the high school, okay. So but you said you didn't hand, because there were obviously, just like the basketball game, there were some Ayer and some Shirley families. But you said you didn't think you handed out more than about 10 of the flyers at each one. Is that probably about accurate? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, were there more people who heard what you said?
oh, yeah, I mean, at the high school concert, everybody who was there heard, and there were,
So
I
that
don't know,
means
probably
what?
100 people.
Yeah, I think that would be more representative than just if they didn't take, a paper, that doesn't mean they don't now know about the project.
Right, okay. So then we can change that concert to say table plus announcement. And so you think 100 there?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Pleasant Street Coffee.
I just did that yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So I did the whole public
I
input.
was thinking it was a coffee shop. It's not a coffee shop.
Oh, no, wouldn't that be
Pleasant Street
nice?
Housing.
It's right, it is.
The senior
Is
housing.
there a coffee shop on Pleasant Street?
No, there's a cafe on the other side of the main street.
Yeah.
There's a cafe. Right at the corner, there was, my buddy.
Yeah, they do a weekly coffee there at the senior housing, and so they had invited me to come to their weekly coffee. And give the presentation there, which was great. A lot of very good questions
Oh,
there as well, so.
And was there any pushback or was there significant resistance from the attendees that?
It was probably the most positive reception I had heard thus far. It was like, let's go ahead and build it already. There were a couple of questions about like, had we thought of this, that, or the other, but they were mostly like, yes, we want billiards tables, or, we really need to be seeing this seeing and selling this as a resource for the whole community and making sure that we help middle-aged adults realize that we offer assistance to help them with their aging parent. So things that were ways to demonstrate the community impact, intergenerational programming, things like that. As ways that they thought would make it more attractive to the larger population. So, Ellen, did you want to go over the upcoming ones that we have and see
Okay,
when you need helpers and things like that?
I do think we should also look at the basketball and the concert, and I think you don't think that more than 5 people were exposed to it at basketball?
I didn't go to the basketball.
Dennis and I went, and it was kind of a joke by the end, because I asked every single person that went into the gym, do you live in Ayer? With the thing in do you live in Ayer? And they're like, no, I live in Shirley. No.
right.
So according to the people that went in that building, none of them,
No women in there play basketball.
no. And it was the girls and the boys game.
Yeah.
If we gave out 5, I'd be surprised. Five
Okay.
would be the maximum that we gave out, maybe 4. So, it was kind of comedic by the end, actually.
Okay, all right, so we have Neshoba Park Assisted Living, which will be on the 15th, next Wednesday at 2 p.m. They expect at least 30 people, she said usually.
Okay.
We have to decide if we're gonna do any kind of snacks, if we wanna do some cookies or, we don't have to
They have a lot of stuff that can snacks that place.
at that place. Yeah, well, maybe we don't. You know, that's, we can figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, the air transfer station.
You know, can we talk about this time? Because, you know, if we're not, I mean, what I've found, I've asked people, like, I have a friend in Pingree Hill,
Mhm,
and I asked her to host a neighborhood gathering.
mhm.
You know, she comes to me, well, tell me about the process, what we have to do, and I told her, you know, we have a town meeting vote, and when's the town meeting? And I think it's really important that we be able to answer that question,
Mhm,
you know, before we
Yeah.
do all of this outreach,
mhm.
because they want to help. But they want to know, you know, what can I do? And what you can do is go to town meeting and vote. I mean, and the same thing for going to the transfer station. It just feels premature to me. You know, that I think we need to have an action item, a specific action item for each citizen, each person that we contact, so that, you know, they can really grab onto it. and do-
One thing, I hear you, and I think when we thought it was going to be late February, early March, it was much more immediate.
Yes.
Right, and so the need to cram all of these right into this January timeframe was large.
Right.
If we're pushing it out, I think we can afford to be more, not leisurely, but we can afford to spread these things out. One of the things I said at the Pleasant Street Coffee is that it's important, though the project, everyone says they're supportive, though there are concerns about the size and the budget. I was saying to them, it's very important that if you want a new senior center, that you are going to the select board meeting and saying that in the first 5 minutes during public input or to capital planning. And I know that's a hard ask for people who don't normally participate in local government. But that is, I think, in the interim, one action item we could say is because, you know, we're all there, but we are biased in that we're on the committee, right? We are vested in it. So, you know, I don't think we need to cancel any of these necessarily that we have going, but I do think we want to say we need a groundswell of support to keep this process moving forward and to keep it on the very, you know, top of the pile with capital planning, finance and select board. That would be my thought.
So I have an idea, and I don't know if this would work. I like your idea about, getting people. It's a tangible thing, right? And asking someone to do something. In all of the public outreach sessions, could we have like a postcard that we can give out and say, okay, here's what you can do. Write a quick little snippet of why you want a senior center, that you will vote yes for it, that you are in support of it, and either mail it to the town hall or drop it off at the town hall. Right, so the town hall will get an influx of, you know, postcards that say, we are in support of the senior center. It's kind of like writing to Washington, if
Yeah,
you will,
we
right?
did that for the train station when we were trying to,
Mhm.
you know, get the land and get the parking. And
Mhm.
we went to everybody on the train and we gave them postcards and they
Yeah.
filled them out and
Yeah.
sent them to Department of Transportation.
Yep.
Which was,
I remember that.
it really
Yeah.
got people's attention. Yeah, that sounded bad.
So how do we get the postcards or what's the process for?
Well, you just make the postcards. That's not hard, but the thing is, I'm looking at timing.
Mhm.
One of the problems-
Because going to the transfer station this weekend,
I
when
know.
it might be snowing, you know, Well,
Weather's gonna be iffy, but
yeah, I don't know if it is. Is this the best use or the best time to do that? Are you willing to do that in this weather? Or is it better to push it back? I'm not saying February is gonna be any better, but,
Personally, I think it would be better to push it back, for the reason I just said about, I think it's really important that we have a date by which they can actually do something. And the other reason is you can engage people better if the weather's nice,
I know.
Here, take this
Yeah.
flyer, and it's blowing and they don't want to talk to you and you don't want to talk to
I
them.
mean, we have 2 weekends set aside, right? We have this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I
and
originally
next-
thought we would request one and then like a snow day
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
But it sounded like you were gonna try to do both.
Oh, I mean, I was willing to show up for both weekends, but I think given the situation, the weather for this
Yeah.
weekend, maybe we just push it for the 18th and the 19th.
Yeah, I would just shoot for one weekend.
Yeah,
And how,
Yeah.
can we make a poster to put in the transfers, in the shed? Saying, here's what we want, and please call town hall, call Robert and say, hey,
so,
we support this.
so Dan, you've already talked to, Andrew about this? Or should I talk to Andrew?
No, I have mentioned it to Andrew
Okay.
and to Dan, and Andrew is very open. The only question is, where do you set up?
I know.
And,
Right in the
but
shed.
Andrew, was very open to having people there and did not see, even on relatively short notice, did not see kind of any impediment to being there. The key.
Yeah, we're all good to have people there. And if we want to put anything on the poster board, we can do that. That's fine.
But I think that to Carolyn's point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
having
Go back
it,
to Carol's point.
Yeah.
having it, well, I love the idea of the postcards, to be able to hand out, but to Carolyn's point of having us have a clearer understanding of exactly what it is we're asking them to vote on and when,
And,
because 6 months in the mind of a voter is
Yeah.
Yeah.
in
They're
eternity.
gonna-
Well,
Yeah, I'd be willing to make the postcards because I can, make these little stamps and for the town hall address and put them on a postcard. It's just the stamps, right?
right,
I think
So you have
and
postcard
we
material?
can't. We, so. As a department head, I'm not allowed to buy stamps. But I think the committee could probably buy stamps.
I think
The
friends could buy them.
Friends can buy.
What, no, I mean versus, because I'm
Right, we have a
expected to run
cost, I
it through
get
the meter,
As a committee, we have.
Right.
Yeah.
so.
Would
So-
it be cheaper to approach the post office and see what they have for a bulk mailing?
I'll ask-
If we're gonna make up 100 cards, you might get it for 45 cents as opposed to 65 cents.
Well, I think the idea was just that the town has a pre-negotiated rate and they're supposed to be doing it through the meter in town hall. So
Mhm.
let me just inquire, maybe you and I can inquire
Okay.
together about that.
Can I get back and comment on Carolyn's?
Yes,
I agree with Carolyn 100%. And I'll tell you one of the, when you said it, it didn't dawn on me because I was ready to volunteer up at the transfer station, but as soon as you said it, I said, wait a minute. Yeah, people are gonna wanna know when we want them to vote, and they're gonna wanna, keep in mind, folks, too, that we're still working on the concept of the budget. We're trying to trim the budget, we're still working it through the feasibility study, what John's gonna say is done. But we're close to the end of the feasibility study, and we're about to get work on the OPM. I really think that's the step that'll lead us to the final result of what we wanna do at a town meeting. So I think we are ready. We're gonna walk it through. And we have a lot of time, believe me,
And this,
take my word for it.
Well, yeah,
It's
they
gonna take
push
to the
back
fall
about
town
town
meetings to get
meetings. I didn't know.
this
that
just
they had
occurred to
done
me
Right.
that until anything that we do in terms of, please vote for this is the
Yeah.
prior
We
to
wanna get
April,
close.
prior to late April.
Yeah.
They're gonna be anticipating that on the April town meeting warrant,
right.
there's a senior center
Yeah.
warrant article.
Mhm.
And when they don't see that, it's gonna, I mean, it's just gonna cause confusion. That is, they're gonna anticipate that they're being asked to vote on something and then the warrant come down
Doesn't come out.
and it's not
So-
there.
Right, and the other thing is that, taking the, how do I phrase this? There are some in the community, surprisingly enough, that think we're going too fast. I know we're not going too fast, because it just takes every day to get to where we want to do it, to get. But the fact is that it takes a lot of time, and we can we'll look bad if we go out and we're trying to push it along like this, and then we can't get to it until a fall town meeting. You have to really be careful with our steps now. I think the rest of the way.
And I agree with that. So I think we need to be targeted about what each of these public input sessions is about. So we did a series of them
Yeah.
in November and December with the idea that we were wanting to get preliminary
Yeah.
feedback, right?
On the concept,
On the concepts.
Right.
So as we move forward into January and February, I don't think we can go out and just keep repeating the thing that we've been doing. So I think it either needs to be targeted. It's specific groups of people that we think can assist the process along. Maybe it's time for the friends to start doing a little bit more in terms of getting the word out and fundraising, or maybe the idea is that we're trying to get to some other aim or some other goal, more champions, more whatever. So rather than letting people know that, hey, this is what's coming up to vote.
and there's really, that's great. There's also another very important factor here, is that we need the other boards to tell us where we should be at this point, or what they feel comfortable with as well. They're not gonna tell us where we should be. I'll rephrase it. Let us know where they think we should be, or where they are, they're thinking about the project. So what does the finance committee really think about it now? What do the board of selectmen really think about it? What does capital planning really think about it?
Right.
And if they just come up with something out of a clear blue sky that, throws us off, then we should be aware of that.
Well, that's a great segue to, yesterday, their capital planning met. And, Dennis and I were there, and so they went through their normal, all of the other department submissions. And then at the end, they talked about the senior center separately.
Yeah.
And, so I'm just open up the note here. So they would like to meet with us on the 22nd. Where is it at? Yeah, other phone. So they would like to have a specific meeting with us on the 22nd. And here are the things that they would like to see for that presentation: comps. They want to see the comparables by,
But wait a second. Comps, is that a real estate term, like comps?
yes, comps, like, they want to see,
No, so what other?
yes, that is, yes, so they want to see what other towns near us, what other towns our size, what other towns that have built recently.
All the stuff we've been working.
Right,
Yeah.
and we have that information is available. We just need to compile it. I mean, it's compiled. I have a slide with it already on it. So we just need
Yeah,
to
got it.
put the narrative that goes with that on there. One of the board members said they wanted to make sure that we were keeping voters informed along the process. So I think I'd like to take this. So Ellen, that's why it's so timely that you made this public outreach, so I can make that into a slide to demonstrate all the things that we're doing to keep the public informed. An overview of where we are in the process and next steps, and we really have that here in this document. Thank you, Bonnie, for working on that. So this is something that they didn't see last time, and I can put this on a slide and we can come up with just the concise explanation of that as well. And then proposed funding plan, from all of the different options. That's sort of a
That's a Robin.
toe in the water kind of thing, because it's not really our role as the committee to say how the town should fund this. But Robert, I think Robert has some suggestions.
fine.
Robert can walk us through that. And so I'll collaborate with him to make sure that we have that available.
And just to add that some members of the committee express some level of openness to looking at funding mechanisms from various town funding sources.
Right.
And that was generated from the committee. That is, neither Katie nor I, nor even Robert in this case, initiated that conversation. So
Right.
some members of the committee are actively looking at are actively looking at funding sources that will kind of alter the and
The requirement for the amount of the bond, that's what they're getting.
yeah, that's right. But, and interestingly, to my mind, although there was some, this is a lot, that phrase was used, there was no, to my way of hearing, significant pushback. That is, I did not hear, this ain't gonna happen, you need to kind of, nothing more than $11 million. There was no significant kind of deeply embedded sense that we can't afford this, you can't do it. It was, we would like to see due diligence on cost so that we can show the people that, we're doing everything prudent in order to kind of attempt to save money. Which, I think we all have been doing.
We'll continue to.
And we'll continue to do. But the tone of the conversation and just the tone of the room was significantly positive, and that they did not see themselves as being an impediment to moving this project forward. They were trying to figure out a way, the best way, to help us move the project forward.
So given that information, and if,
That's a big step.
yeah,
It was huge.
it's a big step and it takes conversation and some planning. And if there is, an amount of funding from the town, it does lower the overall cost, right? The bond and the. In a time continuum, would it be possible that we go back now to, if that all happens, we go back to an April town meeting?
No.
Or would it be a special town meeting in the summer?
So part of,
We're all
to
gonna have
answer,
our predictions.
to answer that question. So they wanted a proposed funding plan. They also wanted updated borrowing estimates from Barbara. And in turn, Robert said the committee would like the capital planning to provide definitive direction on how to proceed. Because that's something that, I had stressed was important that
That's good.
that we not go have a meeting where people bat around smaller details and then we leave with no direction, because we need direction
Yeah.
from capital planning, finance and select board on how to keep moving our work forward. So my hope is that all of the things that are on this list that they'd like to see for the next meeting, we have available. Like if I had to do this presentation tomorrow, I could do it tomorrow. It's available. I want to spend some time how I would present it, but so hopefully at the end of that meeting on the 22nd, there will be some good direction for us. Are we on the right track? Do we need to, move in one direction or the other? What other resources are available? I think that's really gonna come together at that meeting. So, and then we have our next meeting on the 30th. So that will give everybody some time to process what has been said on the 22nd.
What time is the meeting on the 22nd?
They almost always meet at 5 o'clock.
Also, the Friends are gonna be meeting with the Board of Selectmen on the 21st.
Right, yep,
Asking
yep.
for permission to do fundraising. We have to get on their agenda. I did do a letter.
I don't think you need permission from the select board to fundraise.
You can
Yes,
speak
we
in
do.
public.
Uh,
Anybody can speak in public.
No,
Yeah,
but
you might
what we
want-
wanna
you want
get
to-
from them
you
is
want to
a
be on-
letter that says that they have officially been approved
Yeah.
to do this, because if you go to a company and say, hey, would you donate
Got it.
$50,000, you wanna show, this isn't just a couple of people saying, hey, would you like, we're kind of backed by the town.
It's good.
But, and again, I may be wrong, but it's my understanding that the purpose of creating a separate 501c3 separate from the town is to allow the Friends to fundraise and to solicit donations Now, outside of governmental approval. Now, that being said, the Friends' ability to do that without having a definitive project already approved is a different question.
Right, but there's a lot of organization that's gonna be required on the Friends' part to get to that point. So I think this is a nice step for them to go and be another organization that is from a grassroots perspective, supporting this project by saying we want to fundraise for it,
Yes,
getting the endorsement of the select board. It's getting the Friends and the Senior Center project on another select board agenda, because the people who watch the select board are a different set of people than watch our meetings.
no,
And so I think it has
It might also
numerous benefits.
backdoor them into approving us.
Right.
Because now they've already supported the Friends,
Right.
and then when we come up and say, well,
Yeah.
we need something, now they have
So I
to
get-
support us.
I guess it comes down to, that is. I think it is good that the select board support the Friends initiative to do this.
Right.
What I would say is. But they do not have the authority, we should not be asking for their approval. That is, the select board may feel
Mhm.
that, if you had a select board that didn't want, or some members of the select board that didn't want a senior center for whatever reason, they could still not block the Friends from wanting a senior center
Correct.
and trying to advocate for it and solicit funding for it outside. So I guess, and it's vocabulary. I wouldn't be, I mean, asking for their endorsement and asking for them to support you in your endeavor of trying to work to get the senior center constructed is a good thing. But I don't think you're asking for their approval.
So there was some language, Wilbraham did this, there was some language in their letter. And the letter in the packet that I had was actually the letter that the select board wrote back to the Friends. That said, we, give you permission to fundraise on our project, because it is a town project, right? So the Friends aren't building it. So the idea is that the Friends, the town is saying, yes, you can fundraise on our behalf for this project. I think it's largely procedural, but
But
Council.
it is,
It
but
is procedural, because Belmont did the same thing.
Mhm.
It was a step process.
but it was my understanding that you couldn't start fundraising until you already had town meeting
Well,
approval.
Friends can use the money for more things than a senior center. They can use it for this setup.
Right,
They can use
Yeah.
it for all- yeah, right.
right.
And we probably do not want to go out and do fundraising until we
Right.
have
Right.
Right.
town meeting approval.
Right,
Because
So-
nobody's gonna want to give it to you until they know that it's been
Nor should-
approved.
But there
You
is,
have the conversation.
Yeah.
You can have those conversations with people.
yes,
Right.
no, I agree.
you're having the
Yeah.
conversation to set it up, to put into motion the potentially months of planning that the Friends need to do before they even go out and ask their first.
Oh, that's absolutely correct.
This
You're
is
right
just setting it up properly to set the balls in motion, not to actually go out and.
It's like a continuation, you've already been there, and talking to them about this, but it's kind of a continuation of that same theme that Katie just talked about, that. When you even go to the next to the meeting with them, you're basically saying, here's the members of our committee. We'll be working on a letter to present to the select board in the future. We might ask for your endorsement, that kind of thing, but you're keeping the process going.
It's making
It's
them.
in their mind
Yep.
it's moving along. People see you on TV or they see you around town.
Yeah.
You've stayed in the public view, which is important. It's just another part of what we have to do, of the 100 steps we have to take. So. It's good.
And the select board meetings are at 6, is that right?
Yeah. So,
So capital fund, yeah, I think, can I go back to what you just said 5 minutes ago? I thought the most important thing about for tonight was. And I didn't think of it, so Katie brought it up, because I'm thinking about all this. Is the fact that we have not been given direction by these committees. I think they owe us that. And I think it's very important for us to go to we've given them all the present early thoughts about it. We've given them drafts, we've had the discussion, they know who we are. But we walk out of there with no real direction, is the word I guess we're looking for. And that will help us to, because if we walk in there and they say, you know, whatever they want to say, it could be a surprise. And we don't need too many surprises. Like the first finance committee meeting where we weren't at that meeting. Some things were said because they didn't understand the process. But that's very important. I think when we go to those, back to those boards, and I'm not sure the order it happens. You know, is it capital planning, finance, select board? Is it, the order might be important. The select board should be managing maybe the schedule as well. If they feel is the right, you know, how we can get it through
Well,
different committees.
I mean, I think that once all of the committees, I think, have been looking to us to provide them information that will make their lives easier.
Right,
And I think that as we move the process forward, in terms of the cost, obviously in terms of the location, in terms of a potential timeline for the drawings and all the rest of it. As time goes on, all of that becomes clearer to us. And I think that for me, it would be helpful for us to be able to say to them, this is what we are thinking. We think that this is the right number in terms of cost. We think that we are going to be able to have all our ducks in a row to get to a time meeting, perhaps by such and such a date. We anticipate, public outreach occurring in such and such a manner. What do you folks think of that plan? My hope would be if we are able to do that the feedback we get from them is rather concrete. That is, they don't kind of say, but rather they say, yes, we think you can do this. We support you doing this, and we are willing to, provide the funding mechanisms to do it.
I think that what I'm getting at is the fact that, I'm not sure how many meetings we've gone to exactly, but that they say the same thing to us. Everyone supports, we all love this idea of the senior center. We all support you,
But they're not doing
they're not
anything
supporting you.
actively to support.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's what.
Well, my hope is that on walking out the door on January 22nd, I am hoping that we have some concrete numbers on a piece of paper that says, this is a funding arrangement that we could,
That we
support.
could get behind,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And that is the expectation that was set last
Yeah.
night, was that you
Okay.
provide us
You
with
guys
this
heard it.
information
Oh, yeah.
and in turn, they will offer some concrete direction.
I think the other thing that's important too, when we get that. When we go to town meeting, I think everyone knows this because we're doing it. That we're asking for a number not to exceed, basically authorizing this, well, Carolyn knows the terms better because she was a selectman. We're asking the town to authorize a number under the, control of the select board, whatever the language is. And then if it comes in under that number, or the sequence of getting to the number as far as the spending is more or less being controlled by the assets available from the town. So it's not like we're saying, give us 16, whatever the number is, all at once. It's a number that the project can be completed under, and we still keep working on it, as we go.
Right, and I, and to John's kind of perhaps earlier, his sleepless night before the bids come in.
No worry this time.
What's that?
It's not gonna be a worry this time.
It's not, well. There is,
Places are going.
I am painfully, maybe I am painfully aware that until the construction companies provide bids on specific buildable documents,
Exactly.
everything that we do up until that, we get that in, will be, yes, now, my hope is that the estimates we've gotten so far and the due diligence, will guarantee, or, give us a high likelihood that the number is gonna come in at or below the number that we looked for.
Correct.
Yeah, I will mention a couple quick things. Number one is, fortunately, in the last 40 years, we've only had one project come in over budget on the budgets that we estimated, mainly because the drawings really have to be highly detailed, and our estimator's been doing this for about 45 years, doing multiple public projects. But we also carry ad alternates that give you a cushion above and below that, that you get to take them if it's underbid. I mean, and if it's overbid higher, you lose some of the ad alternates. So the way the public bid process, it gives you a very, very good, um, highly probable that you will come in on bid. And rarely does it not. But we create these options that are part of the public bid process in Massachusetts, and those are ad alternates. And I think we had like 6 of them listed, which we've taken out for now in order to get our budget in underhand. We'll add some more in under the new budget. But we can that happens during schematic design and in design development to bring the budget in. And the budget is constantly adjusted as the drawings get done and the marketplace changes. It's a constant adjustment to hit that number.
Great.
Sorry.
No, that's helpful. That's helpful.
Keep learning.
So, I meant to discuss this during the OPM part, but just so everyone has the most updated copy of the of the budget and expenditures to date. You've got that last number down there, which is what's left in the current funding for the that could go to the OPM and for schematic design. So, I don't think there's any action item that needs to be taken on that. I just wanted to make sure that I had offered and updated. Because since our last meeting, the Goddard Consulting Habitat Assessment came in a little bit lower than what we had budgeted. And the deep borings came in, that invoice was submitted as well. I thought there was a third one. Dan, was there a third one that came in recently?
Well, we didn't have to pay for the National Grid. We took that out,
Right,
15,000.
yeah, that's.
We had a
that's-
Ross bill, but that was a little while ago. I think I don't remember.
Right, I've got that in there already.
Mhm.
That's the 16-1.
The 16-1, yeah. So, okay, so yeah, those are the 3 updates. So that's on track and, given what we've learned about the potential costs for the OPM during schematic design, I think we're gonna have to decide whether or not we can do both of those with what the funding that we have left, or whether we're going to need to ask the select board for some more funding, potentially from UDAG, but I think we can maybe get into that a little bit more of that discussion after the meeting with capital planning on the 22nd, because hopefully that is a moving on forward conversation. Right, so.
I got a couple of things. So, we've got the Bishop Road water design as a fee here.
Oh,
Dan, did you anticipate that if we were to design Bishop Road and went out to bid, there's a cost to go out to bid, right? There's a cost to send the drawings out and whatever, advertise and stuff like that. So you want to leave a number in there, is what I'm getting at, or something.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up. I know there's a cost for the railroad permitting. I don't have it right in front of me. Give me a minute. But yeah, there's some costs associated with that. We got the railroad. Trying to think of what else.
Did we determine that, is there a chance that we have to go to conservation because of that tiny piece down the end of the street that we're in a buffer zone? If we start the water, we're within 100 feet of the wetland that's down at the corner of Bishop and Park.
I'll have to check with Matt. He's been starting in the plans. From Ross. I don't know right now.
Either way, we're gonna we'll be able to take it to the town if we have to ourselves. We're not gonna need an outside engineer for anything like that. We'll do.
Right.
Right, okay.
And do we know do we need any permission or kind of written document from the railroad that says,
He's gonna do it. Okay.
or it's all taken care of?
Yeah, there's an application process and we'll have to submit to them and get approval. And that's part of the cost there that is included for
Okay.
that work.
All right.
Kind of
You
funny.
wanna leave, she's got 10,000 in here, Katie, I mean, you
Yeah.
wanna leave it there?
Yeah, we should keep that. It was, I'm trying to find exactly what was included in it, but I know for sure it was the, process with the railroad was part of it. And I know that was like at least 3,500, maybe
Okay.
twice. Uh,
What about the next one? Why can't we get that out of our special election and our
Yeah.
contingency?
What's that?
She's got 15,000 for what's called special election. And
Yeah, that came from the town clerk's office when we were looking at potentially having this.
That was 5.
What's that?
Now, she sent us a detailed,
Oh, she did?
she said, yeah, so for a special election,
Okay, this brings me to an interesting topic. The town is gonna have to waive hundreds of thousands of dollars of fees for this project. All the building permits, plumbing permits, HVAC permits, site plan approval application. They're gonna be able to waive this. We have an enormous amount of fees at the cost of this project for construction. That all have to be waived.
Even local permit.
All the building, all those fees that
when would
a
we,
normal developer would have to pay. We can't pay it as a town.
when would
They need to
we,
waive it.
when would we ask for that waiver?
When we get to the point where we're close to pulling permits, later in the process, but they're aware of it now, they just have to do it. Towns have to do it.
Right, so sometime after we get town meeting approval for the funding and we're close to beginning construction.
I put it on my list of add alternates with a 0. I'm making another list of add alternates on my own.
Right.
And it dawned on me that I should put that in there with a 0 next to it, so that we do have that to think about sometime in the future. But now I thought of it here when I saw this, because I think it would be appropriate for us to ask that we never have a cost like that in this community.
So
The
do
reason
you-
why you waive those two guys is that the contractor adds fees to everything. So he's got his markups. So the town not only, the town, you're getting penalized for those fees. You just, Ken's right. Put a 0 next.
Yeah, so my question is, who do we ask? Who has the authority to waive? Okay, and when do we ask the Board of Selectmen to either waive those fees or prepare to waive those?
Well, I think when we get to a discussion about a town meeting, that would be the appropriate time to say, we believe that the town should waive this cost. You got millions of dollars around the town hall.
No, that's a
And
good
not
point.
put it over at this committee.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I've never had a town ever charge for any permitting. The reason why is because if you charge for it, you're paying for the permit that you're getting money for, and then you're paying another 15% or 20% on top of that. No town charges for permits. It's just nuts, I mean, obviously you got to ask them and go through the process, but I've never seen anybody, as soon as you sit down and rationally think about it, let's say it's a $10,000 permit fee. So you're paying for that, and then you pay another 15% or 20% on top of that. And this is money that you're asking them to pay you, but you're giving it back to them. Doesn't make more.
So,
Makes
I'm
no
just trying to
sense.
spend $15,000 on a
Right.
budget.
and
That's what
I
I'm trying
think,
to do.
yeah, and so we may not need, I mean, I put it there as special election and or contingency.
Right.
And so, there's wiggle room in here.
Leave it that way.
There's the final $10,000 for John's schematics, which may or may not get built depending on how we do
Feasibility.
for the feasibility, yeah. And then there's that special 15,000 a special election or contingency, and then that leaves the 204,000 that has got to cover the OPM and the schematic design, but it could be, more like 235 or 240 if you take those other two categories out.
It's pretty close.
Yep.
So Katie, did you want to have, at some point have a conversation with Robert, just letting him know that we, the committee, anticipate that the permitting fees for X, Y, and Z will be waived? And just see what his response to that is, or what he thinks the process for making that happen should be, or just to kind of make him aware that this is our thinking and just kind of be prepared to act on it.
I just don't see how the town could come back and charge this committee $15,000. I didn't.
No, no,
It wouldn't be
I-
charging us, it would be charging the contractor.
No, I'm talking about the fee for a special town meeting.
So it
Oh,
actually,
that's-
I'm
no,
talking
that's
about the
actually,
Special town meeting fee.
That's a town clerk.
that's a town clerk thing, and it says that if there is a private entity or a town board or committee that calls, that's in the statute someplace that says that if you as a committee call a special town meeting, then you are expected to cover the cost of it.
The committee is?
Mhm.
That means the town's covering the cost of their own town meeting.
Yes.
What the hell?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, but we don't
I
have to
know.
call a town meeting, the select board has to
The
call the
select
town
board-
meeting, all we
Correct.
can do is
We're
ask the
not
town,
gonna, that's
the
right, we're not
select
gonna
board.
call us out.
And that's,
We don't
that's
have
how we want
authorization to
it.
call us
No,
out.
I know.
We don't have
That's
the
right, we
authority to call a
I
town
think it's-
We
meeting.
can't call it
It's
town.
just-
meeting.
And so it
It's
could
just
be that that's it could be that that is in there for if an organization by citizens petition or something like that.
There you
calls a
go,
meeting,
that's
that
it
might
right
be
there.
what it's
Exactly.
mostly pertaining
That's
to.
exactly what it is.
So that, I just wanted to have that in there as a line item.
Okay, thank you. I
It
got it.
may
We'll leave it
not
at that.
apply to us.
Okay.
Okay. So any other,
I just wanna go back to public input.
public outreach, yeah.
Public outreach, whether we need to, have you made a decision, Bonnie, about the transfer station? Are you gonna do 1 or 2 weeks?
I would prefer to do 1 week.
And do you
And-
think you're gonna do,
And I think, I thought about this today, and I thought, based on this weird weather that we're having. I just don't feel comfortable being up there when it's so windy and cold.
yeah, so you wanna tentatively go for the 18th and
Mhm.
19th?
Yep, tentative, yeah,
And if it's weather's too bad, we push it back again.
yep.
All right, now,
You
I-
didn't make your
I mean,
point.
Yeah,
What happened?
I'm not gonna do it in January. I mean, I really believe that we need to do it closer to, when
When we
something.
execute
when
the
we-
vote.
Yes, exactly.
And I think we can do it again. I don't think, what, you mean up at the transfer station?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean, no one's saying we can't
right.
go up again.
So what if you were there with a Friends member as well? And the idea would be that you would be passing out information for the sake of general information, but also to assist the Friends in trying to recruit some members, trying to find some champions. If the goal is trying to find someone who's excited about it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
right now, I
Good
think that's a
idea.
better goal to, to
Yeah, that's a good
solicit
goal.
membership
Yeah.
for the Friends rather than to solicit votes for the project.
Yeah, that's a
We're
good
not,
idea.
we're just not,
Yeah.
there yet.
okay. So, in terms of the church, because I was gonna say, this is, that's on a 4 o'clock mass on Saturday, and then an 8:30 mass on, Sunday in Ayer, and then, 10:30 in Shirley. And I was gonna do those, but if anybody else is interested in assisting, that would be great. And I'm just wondering, should we be doing this now, or should we be pushing it off? I mean, does it help us in terms with the capital planning of showing that we're doing more public outreach?
So, I don't know that we have to do these 2 weekends. I don't want people to feel pressured to do these 2 weekends in a row like we were going to February town
Yeah,
meeting.
really.
I think if there are, because these, you potentially are reaching different people
Mhm.
than we've reached in these other ones. And again, the idea would be to say, hey, this is coming probably in the fall.
Mhm.
And we're really looking for some people to help support this from a grassroots level. And then I think that's beneficial. I also think it would be perfectly fine to say, let's wait. until
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather wait on the church.
Let me throw a
Let's skip
monkey
the
wrench in
church.
or a suggestion. The 19th at St. Mary's after mass, they're having, they call it coffee and everybody just gets together. They go down in the base, they go down in the hall and they have coffee and pastries and stuff and just hang around after mass for socialization. If you wanted to push it up a week instead of going to the or, go there first. Where it's nice and warm. While everybody's having coffee and pastries, instead of doing it. On the 26th or a week earlier, because everybody's gonna be down there anyway, because
Yeah.
on that Sunday, Sunday the 19th, they're having
Yeah.
pastries in the basement there.
Well, unfortunately, I'm babysitting for my,
Well, if you give
granddaughter.
me the information, I can, Janet Prodavakis, basically takes care of it, runs it.
When would they be doing that in February? That is, would it be?
Usually it's the third Sunday of the month.
So would it be appropriate to do some kind of formal presentation at that,
He wanted to charge us $200.
Not
No,
gonna
no, I can, don't worry about it. We're
And
not renting
the
the
only
hall.
problem is, it's good that it's at St. Mary's, but the majority of seniors go to St. Anthony, particularly the 4 o'clock mass, because St. Anthony is much more accessible. It's all on
It
one
is
level,
accessible.
whereas St. Mary's, you have to go up the steps and all like that. Which is why I was doing both, but I think it's a great idea to go to that and set up a table. If you, wanna do that, I just can't do it on that date.
Why don't we put it off until February? Because, these are we're gonna know. On the 22nd, we're gonna have some sort of sense whether everything in that 4-page brochure which
still
we've been,
correct.
is still
Yeah.
correct and valid, or whether there are things we're gonna need to change about
That's a
it.
good point.
So I would suggest we put that off until February.
Okay, Linda has been calling and contacting, the Lions Club and the Sportsman's Club. No, she hasn't gotten anything
Somebody's
back.
on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to the
And,
Rotary.
no, the Rotary is scheduled
There it is, right there, yeah.
for the 23rd.
Yeah.
You still want to do that?
I do, I think we can put the dates off though a little bit, and I did talk to Linda just briefly today. She had let me know she wasn't gonna be able to make
Yeah,
it
and
tonight.
she was doing a lot of churches and, but I do think maybe we should
And I
push
did,
all that back.
I did tell her, don't schedule anything before the 22nd, so that we can make sure that we have had time to have that capital planning meeting and then adjust if we need to adjust.
Okay.
and
Well, I'm
go
gonna
forward.
postpone the church ones then.
Should we postpone transfer station as well till February?
Yes.
Okay, so church and transfer
Okay.
station,
Okay.
okay.
We want to get the church on Easter.
That'll be too late.
Let's see.
No,
Okay.
It might not be.
You know what town meeting is.
No, we've got it squared away. We're good till June, beginning of the end of the fiscal year.
But I guess as an addendum to this public outreach, we did reach out to the public, and
Mhm.
one of the nice things that has happened as a result of the meeting that was here at the senior center
Yep.
was that can I pronounce names? Yes.
Yes.
Jim Nearing has a Substack. And he wrote a really great piece about supporting the senior center, in the Substack.
Mhm.
So
What is that?
What was the Substack?
Substack, well, it's kind of like Facebook for adults, for serious people, for serious people
That's
about
pretty much-
serious
That's not a less than.
Maybe we can quote that. in one of our-
Kind of like a
Yeah.
newsletter that you can distribute.
It's like a self-publication,
What's that?
yeah.
Some, a limited elite group gets. it.
So anybody can belong, but it has more
So I belong
serious
to
and.
like
and-
Old,
PhD.
Oldster. No, I belong to Oldster, which is stories about older adults that is published in Substack.
I belong to the others.
And I, and I follow nuclear people,
It's just a follow-
energy
it's a
people.
following.
That's who we ought to have a meeting with. Is the nuclear group or whatever.
Oh, well,
That's an
that's-
engaged group. They know how to do fundraising. And we could get a little small package deal over there, run the whole place.
We can listen to the environmental pushback on, you want to build a nuclear power plant on Bishop Road.
A little bitty one.
Yeah.
All right.
The MIT has one.
We're building the answer right over in Devon's. On the North Fusion.
Fusion, that's not Lumpia.
I think in summary, we wanna, I love the work that we've done so far on the public input. We have gotten at a wide variety, half a page worth of engagements. We're getting largely good feedback about people are excited about the senior center. There are questions about size and price. We're working through that right now. We're gonna hold the rest of the public input until after the capital planning meeting,
Yeah.
when we're determining whether we need to pivot or not. And so then this upcoming public outreach and more will still be coming. It will just be coming a little bit later.
I think there's plenty to tell the capital planning committee about public outreach that you've already done. Yes.
Right, oh yeah, I mean,
That's a
all
long
of
list
this
that
is
you've already
great.
done, You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can tell them we had more scheduled, but we postponed it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a great amount of public input. No, they're not actually. There's maybe of this whole list of people, because I'm not counting in these numbers, I'm not counting you guys. So these were the number of attendees, not including you guys. So there were maybe 2 or 3 people that have attended more than one, but largely these numbers hold.
There's the town hall.
I think it's important to note
Yeah.
that at all of these meetings, at least the ones that I've attended, there have been questions and concerns raised about the project. But none of them have been deal breakers. And none of the questions that we're getting, are unanticipated. That is, there hasn't to date been something that we didn't think about that the
Right.
that the community might be concerned about. We have anticipated significant amount of objections. We have, Katie has kind of cultivated a response to each of them. And especially with the work that Carolyn did at the school, frankly, I'm surprised that there weren't significant questions raised about potential interference with the elementary school funding. And the fact that at a school function in front of over 100 people, no one stood up and said, you can't do this because we want to make sure we can get our school.
That's over.
That's a significant statement about the community.
I did want to mention, one, I was thinking about the boards that we went to. One board we haven't gone to, Park and Rec. I don't think we had scheduled anything to make a presentation to Park and Rec. That's why the board we should say, but.
Do we need to?
Well, let's, we even talked, I mean, I've been giving it to the planning board, like more or less, so that they're informed, but I thought we kind of had an idea that would be in front of every informational, in front of every board. And we somehow didn't get them on the list, that's all.
Okay, yeah, we can
Just
add them
something
to,
think for the future.
we can add them to the list. I mean,
Information,
I think any of the boards and committees that want to
Give us
have
10
us give a
minutes.
presentation.
Yeah.
Folks that are on boards and committees are active in
They
town.
vote.
They're gonna come to town meeting because they're required to, and they're going to vote.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think it's helpful. I mean, I don't know that we're necessarily seeking permission from Parks and Rec, for example, for anything, but I think getting the word out and getting their support, sure, yeah. All right. Okay, anything else before we adjourn?
Any comments from Brian?
All right,
Public input?
we don't have any public here today.
Who's Meg?
That's Mary Ellen, my outreach coordinator.
Oh,
Okay, so
Motion to adjourn.
I was gonna say, should we ask John if he has any comments or just because he's here or anything else?
Don, anything you wanted to add before we adjourn?
I just been so enjoying this process.
Oh, put out
I am working on the budget, and I want to be able to give you a clean retake of the budget, and I'll try and get it for your next meeting. And also, we're looking at adjusting the building slightly to reduce its size. And we're making some changes to that nothing dramatic, but it's enough to bring down the square footage to about maybe 800 square feet, or maybe a little bit more than that. And so I'll get that out to Katie, who then can send it around to the committee. And I'm hoping to have that by Monday, Tuesday next week. Dan is working on the drawings to make sure that they work. Because if we move something around, there's lots of internal things that have to fit with it. So I'd say Wednesday next week, we'll get those drawings to Katie, and then she can get it to the team. And then your
Great.
comments back would be very helpful. I think we have some very positive numbers on the budget. I've talked to our cost estimator, who has a real pulse on exactly what's happening, since he's estimating and getting bids in every 5 or 6 a week. And he says the market is softening. The bids are coming in much more positive. He says that I was carrying 10% for escalation. He says we should drop it down to about, I can't remember what he said. I think he said certainly drop it down to at least 5%. That's a fairly significant number. So I'll get those to Katie probably next week, Wednesday. And hopefully we won't get as much, it's good that they saw the numbers that we have. Some people have seen some of those numbers. It'll be helpful to see a number that's more positive. That shows that the committee and the architect are working hard to make this as economical as possible without sacrificing the program. I think the program is really important. So we'll get that out maybe Wednesday next week.
Great.
Okay, no, that's
That would be
great job.
great.
Thank you.
I think that would be something we can show capital, planning, that we are making an effort to
Yeah.
keep the price down.
Definitely,
Yes,
Great.
big one.
Mhm.
it's just because the architect is so terrific.
Exactly.
Talk to you over
Yeah,
here.
you're right. Keep up the good work. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
So we should have those plans then for the meeting on the 17th?
On the 22nd, yes.
Yes, for sure. You'll get it before that. Well, before it. For comments, I'd like to get comments back.
Right.
I think, well, okay.
All right. What time do we adjourn?
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? All
Motion to adjourn.
right,
Second.
okay, Dennis,
Aye.
Carolyn, Ellen,
Aye.
Dave,
No.
staying here all night.
Aye.
Aye.
Katie says aye, Dan,
Yeah, somebody has to be funny.
Hi.
Say aye.
okay, all right, we are adjourned at 7:47 PM.